Welcome to the Winnipeg Free Press, Winnipeg Blue Bombers Training Camp Report. Geez, that's a handle and a half, isn't it? And I'm Paul Wiecek. This is Ed Tait. Eddie, day one of training camp, Drew Willie regaling the media with the fact that he went 9 for 9 on the opening day of training camp, leaving aside the fact that it's really, really weird that the starting quarterback of this team is keeping his own statistics at training camp. What I want to know is how many of those 9 passes did you haul in?
Oh, yeah, nice. Well, a couple bounced to us today. I don't think he was 9 for 9 today. It's been an interesting couple days out here in camp. You and I went over the offense yesterday. Some neat pieces there, and it's a little wonder that Drew Will is excited. He's got a better O-line in front of him. Darvin Adams might be the deep threat, but there's a lot of questions on the defensive side of the ball too.
Yeah, and let's talk about defensive side of the ball. You grew up in this town, so did I. Hey, this team always, when we won championships, and there was a time that this team won championships, it was because of an amazing defense. Let's talk about lots of changes on this Bomber defense coming to this training camp. What are the storylines you're looking at?
Well, I guess first and foremost is the change at the coordinator position. Last year with Gary Echeverry, they ran such an unorthodox defense. And I mean, these guys hate that term, but it was weird. It was different than when everybody else ran. They had, people lining up all over the place. And it showed in the statistics. They were awful against the run. Anybody that needed a first down against this team could just pound the ball. So the biggest change is that Richie Hall comes over from Saskatchewan. They're going to run a traditional defense.
They're going to have a playbook this year. What a concept.
And
we're not kidding. Gary Echeverry didn't have a playbook.
Well, and that shows you, that to me is unorthodox, right?
Yeah, or there's probably a few other words you can come up with there.
Yeah, so.
Stupid.
Stupid. The change at the top is important because this is a guy that's won before and run championship caliber defenses. They've added again a couple interesting pieces. Jamal Westerman, the Canadian at defensive end. Garrett Wagner, the sort of fake Canadian that they found in the supplemental draft as a player. Sam Hurl.
There's a term you don't hear a lot, fake Canadian.
Yeah, well,
a lot of people trying to fake their way into Canadian show. Oh, there you go. Yeah, that's true.
And then in the secondary, there's some changes too. They've moved Chris Randall up to play some linebacker. Don Yanamba is going to maybe get a look at both corner and linebacker. So a lot of moving parts right now, but I think the foundation is better than what they've had in the past just because of their scheme.
Let's talk about linebackers for a minute. You're going to have a piece tomorrow talking about how the long and great tradition of amazing linebackers with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are going back to the days of James West and Tyrone Jones and Paul Randolph and Greg Battle, and it went on and on. They would replace them every year. You're going to read more about that from Ed Tait in tomorrow's paper, but give folks a taste of a team with that tradition of linebackers and linebacking and greats is coming into camp this year. We were trying to find a linebacker in all these linebackers they brought in, and it's a huge number. There's a truckload of linebackers in camp. We couldn't find one that actually had any CFL experience on the depth chart.
Well, there's Sam Hurl here, but a Canadian guy that's been brought in as free agency, but it's not like he's got a glowing resume.
The Rough Riders wanted him to be a starter last year. He lasted all of 5 games at starter, but the Bombers think he's their starting middle linebacker. We'll see.
They're going to have one of their 3 linebackers will be Canadian, whether it's Hurl, whether it's Wagner, who I mentioned earlier, whether it's Greg Newman, who blew his leg out last year. Jesse Briggs is there to back up. They've got Canadian pieces there. There's still kind of a huge question mark. Ian Wild's gone to Pittsburgh. Johnny Sears has left. And so you look across that, there is no Randolph, Jones, West. It's a blank slate. There's some neat pieces, though. Danico Allen, who was a huge star at Michigan State, I was talking to Kyle Walters before camp. When they announced that they were going to sign him, they went and did a little research with the Michigan State people, and one of the guys at Michigan State said, you just signed from that year, I think it was 2010 with the Spartans, the guy who was our best defensive player. And that team sent guys to the NFL who are in the NFL now. He's just the classic undersized, too small for the NFL. If you look up Danico Allen's YouTube videos or look at his resume, it's just unbelievable what he's able to do. So he's a candidate. There's again, Chris Randall might get a look at Sam, which is usually a kind of a cover linebacker. But it's a huge question mark for this team. There's some neat pieces there, but there's always neat pieces there. We'll see if these guys can play starting next Tuesday in Toronto with a first preseason game.
Let's touch on the secondary. We're going to have 4 of the same 5 pieces, I think. Matt Buckner at corner, Bruce Johnson at half, Damon Washington at half, Maurice Leggett at safety. The last corner, boy, they sure like Johnny Adams there, don't they?
They really like Johnny Adams, another Michigan State guy, and you saw him in Florida. I wasn't at their free agent camp, but apparently he really popped off the page there. And it'll be interesting because they've got a safety net there. If they don't like what they have there, they can always move Chris Randall back. Maybe that leaves a hole at the linebacker spot. But again, when you looked at the problems that this team had last year on defense, it wasn't in the secondary. They covered the ball receivers really well. It's what was happening on the front seven. So maybe those guys get even better with some more pressure up front and an ability to stop the run.
Yeah, finally, let's talk about the front four. You know, they were terrible against the run. Hey, some of that is on the linebackers, but some of that was on the front four last year. And hey, in addition to them being terrible against the run, they had a lousy pass rush too.
Yeah.
Boy, that's a bad combination out of your front four. Some upgrades there, some returnees. Zach Anderson back after missing a bunch with an injury last year. What are you seeing out of the Bomber front four?
Well, it's funny because there are some familiar names from last year. Anderson, as you mentioned, Brian Turner's back, Greg Peach is at one end, and Westerman's at the other end right now. You know, they like some of the other guys that are still here. Remember Thaddeus Gibson, they traded Alex Suber last year for, and he never really played for these guys. There's other guys here that I know that they like. We'll see, because again, you're tempted to say this is a scheme thing. Maybe if they can get more pressure, if they're playing a more traditional style defense. It is weird that, to me, it says something of their trust in what they did last year, or their disappointment in what they did last year, that they bring back a lot of the same guys. If it was more than just the scheme, if it was a talent issue, 3 of the 4 starters wouldn't be back again, right? So we'll see. I know the D linemen are excited because of what Richie Hall does. I think Todd Howard's the D line coach. The Saskatchewan Roughriders have always had high sack totals from their defensive line, so those guys are drooling over those prospects again.
Eddie, Drew Willie might have been 9 for 9, but you, sir, 10 for 10 right here, right now. That's Ed Tait. I'm Paul Wiecek. That was your Winnipeg Free Press, Winnipeg Blue Bombers training camp report.